Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of Business in the Bold podcast. I'm your host, Amara Siwara, and today, on our very first episode, we are going to be interviewing Durham's very own Mayor Williams. We're going to be talking about his business, Zweli's, the economy, and all the projects that he's currently working on to bring new economic opportunities to Durham and also better it for small businesses. All right, let's get straight into our conversation and see all that the mayor has to say. All right, hi, Mayor Williams. Good morning. It's nice to be on here with you today.
That's right.
So, thank you. And for my first question today, I just kind of wanted to just kind of start with a brief overview of things. So, could you provide an overview of the current economic landscape of Durham right now?
Yeah, so Durham is actually one of the strongest municipalities uh, in the country right now economically. We are, if there is, I'll put it this way: you have you have depressions and um, you have, like the Great Depression or whatever. You have recessions. If there was a recession going on, we wouldn't even know it. That's how strong our economy is. Our unemployment rate is like 2%, 1.9%. Now, when you have a strong economy and you have a strong unemployment rate, it creates other issues.
Mhm.
Um, for like industries that have entry level jobs, it's really hard to hire. It's really hard to find people.
Mhm.
Um, and also, when you have a strong economy, you have to think about it: the economy, and then you have the wealth attainability.
Mhm.
Do we feel it in our pocketbooks? Do we feel it in our wallets? And that is, when you have a growing wealth gap, the people who have money and, have a decent amount of wealth, they're going to do well, especially if they have investments or an investment portfolio. But majority of people don't. So you you have that issue, and then also when it comes to inflation, in the midst of all of what's going on, considering we're following a pandemic, um, inflation is going to make things seem more expensive, although we're making more money than we ever have.
Thank you so much for those vulnerable and honest answers. I like how even though you highlighted some of the problems of a strong economy, you were still able to get it across. Like a 1.9 unemployment rate is extremely low. So I'm really proud to be
Oh
from
yeah.
that's our city. And so going on the theme of this like strong economy, what are some of the key industries that drive the economy of Durham?
Yeah. So we have to make somewhat of an assumption here locally,
Mhm.
but based on the economic market, we're looking at it from a statewide, not only just regional but statewide and federal. So, we if I'm operationalizing this perspective, then we're looking at the major companies that are coming to the area and how those companies are hiring people at a particular wealth level or wage level that does make living here what it is. So
Mhm.
we have Grail, Grain, those cancer research companies. You have Google, you have Apple that's coming, Blue Cross Blue Shield. These are corporate companies that have national, name tags.
Mhm.
GlaxoSmithKline, international name tags, IBM. They have significant presence here. They're hiring. They have a large, employee base here, and they get paid really good,
Mhm.
and they're right here. And as we have more companies coming, I'll give you a prime example to understand this better. Apple, when Apple does break ground and they hire their 3,000 employees, the average salary is going to be almost $200,000 per person.
Wow.
So what it's like, oh, great, we're getting more people that are going to participate in the tax base. However, we're getting more people that can pay more money for more things,
Mhm.
which creates more of a separation to lower wealth families and lower wealth individuals. So what happens is you start to experience things like displacement. So you have a more beautiful city where we gentrify, and gentrification is different than this displacement. Gentrification means you have a tax base to do better things, like such as beautifying your landscape. You're going to have nicer homes,
Mhm.
but you're also going to have the displacement of vulnerable families. And a lot of folks think the government is responsible for that.
Mm.
We can't, in North Carolina, you can't control, we're not allowed to control those types of things
Yeah.
in the housing space. When it comes to inclusionary zoning, it's illegal in North Carolina. We're not allowed to. So therefore, if you have land and you want to sell it, you can sell it. You want to build something, you can build it. You only just come to the city to get it rezoned. If you want to build more on it, it will rezone up.
Mm.
Or you can just build by right, which everything is zoned for something, and most things are single family homes. So you have those companies that are bringing high wealth individuals. The only way we can really impact the market is increase supply so that housing is not exclusive. And that is how we keep it attainable for low wealth families.
Thank you so much for that answer. And just as you mentioned, there are a lot of big companies that are coming to Durham. You mentioned people like Apple and Google. And while this is great, I wanted to know more about the local companies and local small businesses that are in Durham. So, what initiatives are the city undertaking to support local businesses and entrepreneurs in Durham?
Not enough. We have the Durham Small Business Fund,
Mhm.
and I actually created that fund with some friends.
Mhm.
The Durham Small Business Support Fund was created during the pandemic. Myself, Nicole Oxendine, and Ryan Hurley, we got together and led a group of small business owners and said, listen, we're going to force the government to support us because there was nothing in place. And so we created it by drawing up the criteria, partnering with Duke University, and Duke gave $1 million, and we could only get that $1 million unless the county and the city matched it. So we raised $3 million, and we created this fund that had the criteria in which you must have met in order to get support. And it was forgivable loans, which was a policy that we had to get approved. And we were able to sustain small businesses here. Now, we individually as small business owners do not impact the economy as much, but we do have some impact. And we do collectively have the most impact. So, for example, my wife and I, in our business, we employ 30 people. We pay a living wage. So therefore, there are 30 families that are being able to be supported by the work that we're providing, the opportunities we're providing. We have 3 locations in Durham, one on the campus of Duke University, one in the Brightleaf District, and one in the American Tobacco District. We are providing, an amazing food experience. If we were not there, someone else could potentially be there, but let's say we were to leave tomorrow, that would harm 30 families, Also, it would take away thousands from the sales tax revenue that the city collects and the county collects because we do pay our taxes. So now take ourselves and add the other few hundred businesses downtown. That is our economy. That is our, the amount of people we're hiring collectively, the amount of money we're paying in sales tax, the amount of money people are paying in residential tax by having a job that allows them to pay taxes. So the small business economy is the most vital. It has the biggest impact. So we can get rid of all those major companies and Durham is still going to be fine because we are, as I tell people, we are a mid-sized major status city that is still majority locally owned.
All right. Thank you so much for that answer. And I appreciate you taking the initiative to create the Small Business Fund because as an aspiring entrepreneur and other entrepreneurs in the city, that was really important for people and COVID was a hard time.
Unfortunately, when we started that fund, that was the last thing that we've done. At this point, we do not have, that fund has been depleted. And right now, there is no specific, there are some small things like 100,000 here or there, but there's no real specific initiative that is supporting small businesses in Durham. And I do plan to change that.
And that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, what resources are you looking to create for individuals looking to start their own businesses in Durham?
We don't have anything yet. There is the DurhamBusiness360.com website where they provide a training to where they provide a training. It's cohort based, and they basically like provide technical assistance on how to start a business or how to grow your business.
Yeah.
And they take like 10 people at a time. That's one thing, but what most businesses need is access to capital.
Yeah.
and we just don't have anything where we're touching it. We're tapping into that. There's a legacy program where if you're an employee of a business, you have or a family member, and you want to take that business over. If the business owner want to provide it, sell it to you, then the city will put in a load of money to help with that transition. But nothing significant, nothing around access to capital. Um, we have not designed a program that responds to the specific need, and a lot of that has to do with the political ideology of the elected officials that we do have
Yeah.
uh, in majority right now.
Thank you so much for those answers. And so I remember earlier you were talking about your restaurant Zweli's and how you have three different locations. You have one on Duke campus, one on the Brightleys campus, and then one on American Tobacco campus. And I think it's really amazing that as a mayor, you're able to also run your own business. So I wanted to ask, how are you able to balance those responsibilities as a business owner while also being a mayor as well?
Well, you see the gray hairs in my beard. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a bit too young to have this many gray hairs, but I'm involved in a lot,
Mhm.
you know. So basically, I prioritize outcomes,
Mhm.
and that means my hustle level is just abnormal. It's not what the normal person would consider. Like some people say, well, I need to get my rest first.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll rest when I can.
Mhm.
Some folks are like, well, I need to save up, save up money to open a business. I'm like, well, I'm going to make it happen by any means necessary,
Mhm.
and we're gonna be successful by any means necessary. It's just a different mindset. I'm a juggernaut when it comes to seeking success,
Mhm.
and that it's just a way of thinking. And the way I think, you know, I put in 70 hours a week politically, and then I put in like you know, another 30 with the restaurant. My wife puts in like 70 hours a week with the restaurant,
Yeah.
not more. So we just make it happen. It is an unhealthy balance, but it's a short term unhealthy balance that is a significant investment into our ability to be successful.
Yeah. And thank you so much. I admire that drive, like 70 hours politically and then 30 hours in a restaurant. That's a lot. And even your wife putting in 70 hours, that's something to be celebrated about because that's a lot of work. And that work and the drive and the ethic that you have, it translates into experience. So, this experience that you have from running your own restaurants, what unique insights does that bring into the mayor's office for you from all this experience that you get?
Yeah, it is. I believe the Greek word for politics is like polis,
Mhm.
and the root of that, it means people. So no matter whether you're in politics or restaurants, it's still people work. And at the end of the day, it's transactional. People are doing something for something
Mhm.
to get something. People are working to earn a living to have a better quality of life.
Yeah.
And in that entire transactional trifecta, you are just trying to better the process, and the all of the actions that happen in between is like oil in an engine. So you want to have really good clean oil so things can function at its best. You don't want to have clunky, clogged up things, oil, which could be translated into what we call adversity.
Mhm.
So I'm constantly thinking, like, how can I provide the best workspace? How could I, provide the best service? You're paying your taxes as a resident. How can I make sure the government is responding to you?
Mhm.
And in order to clean that oil, it means I have to get out there and talk to folks and communicate and just activate them and making sure that, we're getting folks elected that will actually respond to the community.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much for that once again. And I really like the oil analogy. It helped put it into perspective for me and it helped it make a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And it seems like you have a lot of experience with talking to people and looking on different people's perspectives in order to make change in your community. So I wanted to ask, how does this experience of running a restaurant and doing all these things and interacting with people, being a mayor, kind of shaped your idea on like different economic policies that you want to enforce and different ideas for small business funds or policies and things that you want to enforce to help the economy of Durham?
Yeah, what it does for me is it provides a lot of clarity.
Mhm.
Now, some things the government just need to get out of the way. like, and it goes back to just the political ideology of elected officials.
Mhm.
If you're a socialist, then you're not going to be supportive of a business structure.
Yeah.
We have a socialist on council, and he takes issue with developers that are for-profit driven. But being for-profit driven, it's not a bad thing. It just means that that's what you're doing. You are earning your living. I tell people all the time, hey, I sell chicken for a living. I sell chicken for a living. That living is my profit. And I create space to where, yes, I'm making money on the product that I'm creating and the experience I'm creating, the product that I'm selling. Um, when it comes to government, you're paying your taxes for an outcome. That means you want safe streets. You want to make sure you live in a safe neighborhood. You want to be able to drive without potholes all over the place. You want your water to come out clean and filtered. You want to be able to use the restroom and flush your toilet, and it goes somewhere. But you're not paying your taxes to be an individual investor in someone's idea. That's what the private sector is for.
Yeah.
And just being a business owner, and a mayor, it helps me with clarity of understanding what lane things need to be in and what lane things need to be out of. And sometimes, you have people that get elected and they think the government is supposed to be everything, but it doesn't work that way. I sell chicken for profit. The government collects taxes for services.
I liked, again, how you kind of used how your restaurant, how you sell that for profit to kind of answer the question and demonstrate how the government is not the answer to everything and how it's here to provide taxes and kind of create resources for people, but it's not the answer to every problem.
Right.
So now, from looking more at the present, because I know we've been talking about like how the economy is and how small businesses and things are. So I want to kind of set our focus on the future. So how do you see in the next years to come, as you serve your time in mayor and even beyond your time in mayor, how do you see the economic landscape and like the resources and opportunities for small businesses? How do you see that to evolve over the next few years?
Oh, beautiful. I love that question. And I'll tell you about my vision here. So being a business owner, I know that, the more people are around, the more people who are around, they're going to come in my business and they're going to, if there's 1,000 people walking on the street, I know at least, 50 of them are going to come into my business. I know the street is going to be safe because people are congregated. I know that out of that amount of people, there are going to be folks that come into my business and they're going to patronize. And my business will sustain because there's people around.
Mhm.
Right now, there's not many people around. So therefore, I can't produce as much as I'd like to. Now, the the more money my business makes, the more I have to pay in sales tax.
Yes.
Because it's a percentage. So the stronger I am as a small business, the stronger the government is going to be in sales tax revenue.
Mm-hmm.
But the weaker I am, the weaker the government is. See how that's connected?
Yes.
So I think about that from a practical experience. Now imagine if when you shop local, 41 cents on the dollar stays local versus a national chain, 14 cents on the dollar stays local. So we are still majority locally owned. There's only 2 chains in the entire downtown. That is unheard of in 2024 for municipalities across the country. So we're in a better position than most. Now, imagine if our streets were crowded, we had things that drew people to downtown Durham. Our city will actually generate more sales tax revenue than any other city in the country that is along our size.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think about that in the lens of a small business owner, and then it brings me to my mayoralship. And I'm like, whoa, we actually need people on the streets. We need people congregating in Durham. We need people around, but we don't have it. Why don't we have it? Where's the convention center? Oh, the convention center is way too small. So we're losing major conferences.
Yeah.
So I'm working. So in economic policy is we're going to get a new convention center,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm working on that right now. So getting a new convention center would bring thousands of people to downtown, and they're going to shop. They're going to spend. They're going to stay at our hotels, the occupancy tax. They're going to eat at our restaurants, the sales tax. They're going to shop at retail stores, the sales tax. Oh, but we don't have enough retail stores. Why don't we have enough retail stores? Because we don't have enough people downtown shopping.
Yeah.
So when we get the facility that generates thousands of visitors a day, then it'll make sense to have more retail. And now we're producing the sales tax revenue and the occupancy tax revenue to allow us to, maybe we can build a Major League Baseball stadium. Maybe we can have a WNBA arena, because cities own those assets. And then we contract programmers to come in and run the programming. So just based on my personal experience as an entrepreneur and restaurateur, it informs me on the economic policy that I need to do in the government. So step one is a new convention center. Step two is a freeway park, a freeway cap. It's a park that goes over the freeway that reconnects communities. And we're able to, have an amphitheater out there, have restaurants, and basically, just bring people together. And that generates money. So Clyde Warren Park in downtown Dallas is like one of the best freeway parks in the country. And they've generated over $1 billion already.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how it all works and connects. And that's how my private life informs my public life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that tie. I really like the tie that you make, and I'm excited for that new convention center. That's something I'm going to check out, especially when it's done, because I remember being at the State of the City address at the Carolina Theater, and you're right, these centers, they are very small, and there's lots of people that want to come, and there's not enough seating for them, especially with the way that Durham is growing. So to kind of close this interview together, I know that you've talked about a lot of challenges throughout this podcast. Like there's not enough funding or capital resources for small businesses, and there's not enough people. But even to like aspiring entrepreneurs who still are looking at this and saying, okay, like I still want to start a business in Durham, what advice would you give them as their mayor and as a business owner and entrepreneur yourself?
Yeah, so no one is ever going to come and save you. And no one is going to give you, no one is going to lay it out for you. The difference in entrepreneurs and humans, because there's a difference. Entrepreneurs are going to live no matter what. It's our mindset, and it is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of living. It's having the ability to, create anything out of anything when you have absolutely nothing. And when you have that mindset, you start to see the world through a different lens than anyone else. So I always say there are humans and then there are entrepreneurs. And if you can establish that mindset, your entire life is going to change. So don't wait and rely on resources from a government. They're not coming, And it takes money to start a business. I used my retirement that I was supposed to collect and use when I was old and gray. It was like $36,000. It was $26,000 in my retirement when I retired. I took that money and I said, I'm going to use this to start a business. And we used those funds to start the restaurant because no one else would give us a loan. We got denied 7 times.
Wow.
That's another thing. Never let anyone else determine your outcomes. Yeah, your outcome is dictated on your income, what you put into the process. So we followed the traditional route. We drew up a business plan and we said, all right, let's go and try and open a restaurant. And everyone looked at us and said no. So after the 7th time, I said, I'm sick of letting someone else dictate my next step. And that is when I, went to the state, and I said, I want my retirement. They said, are you sure? I said, yeah. They said, well, you shouldn't do that. I said, I don't care what I should or should not do based on your opinion. I'm going to make sure I'm successful.
Yeah.
And I took the $26,000 and I had $10,000 from our catering that we had saved up from. We had $36,000. I had to learn how to paint. I had to learn how to build tables and chairs and benches. I had to learn how to install the stalls in the bathroom. We built the bar top. And we built up a structure to the point where we could just cook food and sell it. And people came and they sat down and they ate. And it's been going since. And guess what? We're completely debt free.
Wow, that's amazing.
3 restaurants later, we're completely debt free. And we built this. Yep, it's the mindset.
Thank you so much for your time and that advice. I definitely resonate with that. It is your mindset from being denied 7 times to taking your savings for retirement and using that to start a business and being debt free, 3 different locations. That's amazing. So
bet on you.
Yeah. For sure.
Yep.
Even when no one else will, you have to bet on
That's
yourself.
on you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate all your words and advice and all this encouragement. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate all your words and advice and all this encouragement.
Yeah, shoot me a copy of your podcast,
All
and
right.
if you ever get a chance, come by the restaurant. I want to introduce you to my wife because she's the one that runs the business. And as a Black woman, I think that you need to be in that network
Yeah,
so that you can have a conversation with her too. She would love to talk to you.
I will. I definitely will. Now that I have my license, I can definitely just drive up there sometime. So I definitely
That's
will.
good. All right.
So much.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Well, that concludes our very first episode today here on Business in the Bull podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram, which is where we post most of our updates, and I hope to see you here next week, same time, to listen in to next week's episode. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.